Today on Rappler.
Nito pong first quarter ng 2012, ang GDP growth natin 6.4%. Milya-milya ang layo niyan sa mga prediksyon at pinakamataas sa buong Southeast Asian region. Pangalawa po ito sa Asia, sunod lang tayo sa China. Ang tugong ko, ang magpatawad, maaari. Ang makalimot, hindi. Katarungan ang tawag sa plunder case na isinampa laban sa dating Pangulo. Katarungan ang nasaksihan natin noong ika-29 ng Mayo.
Economic growth and anti-corruption. President Aquino outlines the centerpiece accomplishments in his third State of the Nation address.
Forgive and forget na lang ba para sa mga naulila ng 57 biktima ng massacre sa Maguindanao? May babalik pa sila ng forgive and forget.
Human Rights Watch Asia says not one perpetrator of human rights abuses has been prosecuted since Aquino took office.
I'm sure that many of you who are parents here had the same reaction that I did when I heard this news. My daughters go to the movies. What if Malia and Sasha had been at the theater, as so many of our kids do every day?
And speaking as a father, U.S. President Barack Obama condoles with the families of the Aurora Colorado cinema massacre. Hello, I'm Maria Ressa. Welcome to Rappler, your social news network. Philippine President Benigno Aquino gave his third State of the Nation address Monday. He begins by outlining the sins of his predecessor, former President Gloria Arroyo, calling it, quote, a lost decade.
Mula sa unang araw ng ating panunungkulan, walang ibang sumalubong sa atin kundi ang mga bangungot ng nawalang dekada. Nariyan po ang kaso ng North Rail. Pagkamahal-mahal na nga nito, matapos ulitin ang negosasyon, nagmahal palalo. Nariyan ang walang pakundangang bonus sa ilang GOCC. Sa kabila ng pagkalugi ng kanilang mga ahensya, nariyan ang 1 bilyong pisong pinasingaw ng PAGCOR para sa kape. Nariyan ang sistemang pamamahala sa PNP na isinantabi ang pangangailangan sa armas ng 45% ng kapulisan para lang kumita mula sa lumang helicopter na binili sa presyong brand new.
President Aquino highlights the biggest accomplishment of his 2-year leadership. The economy grew by an unforeseen 6.4%, the highest in Southeast Asia, the second highest in Asia.
Ang dating sick man of Asia, ngayon punong-puno na ng sigla. Nang nagkaroon tayo ng positive credit rating action, ang sabi ng iba, tsamba. Ngayong 8 na po sila, tsamba pa rin kaya. Nito pong first quarter ng 2012, ang GDP growth natin 6.4%. Milya-milya ang layo niyan sa mga prediksyon at pinakamataas sa buong Southeast Asian region. Pangalawa po ito sa Asia, sunod lang tayo sa China. Kung dati po, tayo ang laging nangungutang, ngayon hindi po birong tayo na ang nagpapautang.
The president also bragged about reducing the annual shortage of rice production from 1.3 million metric tons to 500 metric tons.
Ngayong taon, 500,000 na lang, kasama pa ang buffer sakaling abutin tayo ng bagyo. Huwag lang po tayong pagsungitan ng panahon. Hari nawa sa susunod na taon ay pwede na tayong mag-export ng bigas.
President Aquino addresses the raging dispute with China over territories in the South China Sea. He says the government exercised utmost caution in dealing with alleged incursions by China.
Iba yung hinahon ang pinamalas natin. Ang barko ng hukbong dagat bilang tanda ng ating malinis na hangarin ay agad nating pinalitan ng barkong sibilyan. Pero kung may pumasok sa iyong bakuran at sinabi sa kanya na ang kanyang kinatatayuan ay sa kanya na, papayag ba kayo? Di naman po yata tamang ipimigay na lang natin sa iba ang sadyang atin talaga.
The president also talks about fulfilling his #1 campaign promise enshrined in his slogan, Tuwid na Daan, or the straight and narrow path. Obviously referring to former President Arroyo and impeached Chief Justice Renato Corona, Aquino says real social justice makes even the high and powerful accountable for their actions.
Forgive and forget ang lahat ng atraso na mga naglubog sa atin sa bulok na estado, ang tungko. Ang magpatawad, maaari. Ang makalimot, hindi. Katarungan ang tawag sa plunder case na isinampa laban sa dating Pangulo. Katarungan ang nasaksihan natin noong ika-29 ng Mayo. Noong araw na yon, pinatunayan natin posibleng mangibabaw ang katarungan kahit na ang kabangga mo ay may mataas na katungkulan. Noong araw na yon, may isang Delsa Flores sa Panabo, Davao del Norte na nagsabing posible palang iisang batas lang ang kailangan sundin ng court interpreter na tulad ko at ng punong maestrado. Posible palang maging patas ang timbangan. Maaaring isakdal at panagutin miski ang mayaman at makapangyarihan.
Human Rights Watch Asia Director Brad Adams criticizes Aquino for failing to mention human rights abuses in his State of the Nation address. In a statement, Adams says Aquino praised the police and military but did not mention his administration's proclaimed policy to hold them accountable for abuses. Adams says human rights abusers can conclude that it will be business as usual in the years ahead. The group says not one perpetrator has been successfully prosecuted since Aquino took office in 2010. Some legislators expressed disappointment over what they feel are important issues that the president did not mention. Representative Erin Tañada, a party mate of the president, says he's sad the Freedom of Information bill was not mentioned. Susan Ople and other comment on social media zero in on Aquino's failure to praise the contributions of overseas Filipino workers, the country's highest dollar earner. Senator Bongbong Marcos says Aquino overlooked many crucial topics. President Aquino says the unemployment rate that was at 8% when he took office has been reduced to 7.2% in April.
Ang dumating tayo, 8% ang unemployment rate. Naging 7.2 ito ng Abril ng 2011 at buwaba palalo sa 6.9 ngayong taon sa buwan rin ng Abril. Di po ba makatwir ang mangarap na balang araw, bawat Pilipinong handang magbanat ng buto, may mapapasukang trabaho?
But some 400 trade union leaders of the newly formed Labor Alliance, Nagkaisa, says while the employment rate went up, the number of underemployed, those who have work but are still seeking work, has increased from 7.6 million in April 2011 to 7.8 million in April 2012. The group also says wage increase has never been on President Aquino's agenda. Despite increases ranging from 2 pesos to 30 pesos, it says current wage rates do not even meet poverty threshold lines. It cites the NCR, where the total minimum wage in 30 days is only 13,680 pesos, merely 58% of the NCR's monthly poverty threshold of 23,404 pesos. Hundreds of protesters marched along Commonwealth Avenue earlier today with an effigy of President Aquino 3 hours before his State of the Nation address. Activist group Ugat Lahi says Aquino's government excels at deception. The group says Aquino charmed his way through programs like public-private partnerships and conditional cash transfer, but the groups add, despite claims that these would alleviate poverty, the number of families below the poverty line continued to increase. Activist group Bagong Alyansang Makabayan hits increasing military presence and U.S. intervention in the country. Rappler asks top-level executives of the country's largest and most influential business groups about the Aquino government's economic performance. Cebu Pacific Air President and CEO Lance Gokongwei says this government has 2 things going for it. First, good governance associated with economic growth. Second, the tourism department has done a fantastic job of marketing the Philippines as a tourism destination. San Miguel Corporation President and COO Ramon Ang notes the GDP is currently one of the highest in Southeast Asia. In fact, it is the highest in Southeast Asia. Ayala Land President and CEO Antonino Aquino says foreign investments and private-public partnerships will continue to happen. PLDT Chairman Manny Pangilinan says perception of the President and the economy is excellent and is looking forward to increased trade and investment. Jollibee Foods Corporation Chairman and CEO Tony Tan Chak Tiong lauds the economic team for making the Philippines, quote, the darling of investments despite the Euro crisis. U.S. President Barack Obama tells a tale of heroism from the Colorado cinema shooting last Friday. Obama focuses on 19-year-old Ali Young and her friend Stephanie Davies, who helped each other during the ordeal. In a speech during a campaign event in Florida, Obama addresses the crowd as both a president and a father.
I'm sure that many of you who are parents here had the same reaction that I did when I heard this news. My daughters go to the movies. What if Malia and Sasha had been at the theater, as so many of our kids do every day? Michelle and I will be fortunate enough to hug our girls a little tighter tonight, and I'm sure you will do the same with your children. But for those parents who may not be so lucky, we have to embrace them and let them know we will be there for them as a nation.
Well, let's now look at Rappler's Wrap for today, a list of the 10 most important events around the world you shouldn't miss. At number 5, forces loyal to Syrian President Bashar al-Assad launch a new assault on rebels in the Syrian capital of Damascus Sunday, even as clashes rage in the city of Aleppo. A rebel leader says the regime is collapsing. That means it will use greater violence in order to try and save itself. Human Rights Watch groups say more than 19,000 people have been killed since March 2011. At number 6, Norwegians hold a memorial ceremony Sunday to mark a year since right-wing extremist Anders Behring Breivik gunned down 69 people in an island summer camp in Norway. Breivik's campaign of terror started in Oslo, where he set off a bomb outside a government building before heading to an island where he went on a shooting spree. Breivik said he carried out the attacks to protect Norway from a Muslim invasion. And at number 8, the heaviest rainfall since 1951 killed at least 37 people and forced the evacuation of 50,000 in Beijing. More than 6 inches of rain fell overnight Saturday into Sunday, July 22, leaving about 80,000 passengers at the Beijing International Airport stranded overnight. Fierce thunderstorms caused the cancellation of about 500 international flights. For the full top 10, visit Rappler.com's The Wrap. Every story on Rappler has a mood meter which has 8 moods you can choose from. When you click on one of them, your vote is counted and aggregated, put together for Rappler's Mood Navigator. Over the weekend, after the Colorado shooting, this Mood Navigator turned this color, gray, the color sad. And then slowly, as the weekend wore on, today, just this afternoon, after the President's State of the Nation address, it turned green. Here's the live stream of hashtag Sona 2012, 61% happy, 14% inspired, 9% amused, 7% annoyed. Aquino cites gains, pushes tax bill, again referring to his State of the Nation address, 87% happy, 10% inspired. Trivia, Philippine presidents and their Sonas, 39% happy. Interesting, this large red circle, Rappler Animate. This is an animation done by Rappler on why electricity rates in the Philippines are high, one of the key bottlenecks for growth in this country. 36% angry and still 24% happy. All of the votes for happy come together to give you the mood of the day. Most people are happy. Well, that's Rappler's Newscast for today, Monday, July 23, 2012, the day of the Philippine President's State of the Nation address. Visit Rappler.com and watch our newscast Monday to Friday. Tell us how you feel on our mood meter. I'm Maria Ressa. Remember, at Rappler, tomorrow begins today.